Alright everybody, it's me Rhoku back with some more content. I got another video for you on Baldur's Gate 3. This one is going to be basically the 10 things that you shouldn't really miss on Act 1 that you can very easily miss, in that if you're not really talking to your friends about the game, or if you, I don't know, are not part of some subreddit, you really will just like miss all of them in your first playthrough, which is kind of a shame because these things range from really powerful bits of equipment to buffs that last with you for like the entire game, to even like entire bits of content the game has kind of tucked away somewhere else they gotta get to. So without further ado, let's get into the first one, which is basically the one that everyone talks about, which is the Everburn blade. It's the sword that this demon guy is holding. When you get to this part of the first initial stage where you're on the Nautiloid, you can see a Mind Flayer fight this guy called Commander Zulk. And the general idea is that you gotta kill this dude and pick up his weapon, and the sword is actually one of the best weapons for the entirety of Act 1 and also some of Act 2. Like seriously, the extra fire damage is like just puts this weapon above like almost everything, right? Now there are some weapons that you can get through a normal playthrough, like the Sword of Tyr or the Susser Blade, that have enchantments which kind of make it more likely that you land your attacks. In my opinion, yeah, I just like big damage numbers, and this sword has the biggest damage number like of all the normal weapons. I'm going to go through one more sword that is even more powerful than this later on in the video, but for now we're talking about this. Now the thing about this fight, as like extra tips, because I'm not going to go through the entirety of it in this video, is that you kind of want to let the Mind Flayer do the work, okay? Just get your whole party around here, just like body this guy as much as you can. It helps to have the brain from the earlier level. It's like the brain with a kid voice, just free it, and it's like this big beefy tank that follows you around. But yeah, just free it, swarm this guy, take him out, and then you can pick up the sword. The thing you gotta be wary of is that the Mind Flayer kind of just turns on you at the end, and he can pretty easily just kill a lot of you guys. So when you get there, again, you want to let the Mind Flayer do the work, because he's the one who's going to do the real damage to the demon. And if you're on some of the higher difficulties, you might have to do some save skimming to get through this area. One more tip is that you don't need everybody to touch the panel. You can just get like one person. So what I do is have my guy and Lizelle just fight the demon and get the sword. Well, I pick it up because I don't want Lizelle to have it. And since Shadowheart kind of isn't that useful after using her abilities, I have her run in at to right around here, so that as soon as we pick up the sword, she immediately hits the panel and we're all out of there. And I think that's like the most efficient way to go through this part of like to get the sword, which basically, right? And here we are. We're at a point where like I've picked up the sword with my character and Shadowheart hit the thing, so we're on the beach here. And this sword looks absolutely amazing. Let me equip it right here. It's just this giant flaming sword that your character just carries around, ready to just cut his enemies up. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it is the coolest looking weapon in the entire game, because it's a sword that is on fire, and damage wise it does the normal slashing damage plus a 1d4 of fire. And although it doesn't sound like a lot, that 1d4 of fire really does come into handy in some situations, and it puts it a cut above a lot of the weapons in the game, at least when it comes to just pure damage numbers. So yeah, if you like big numbers like me, you're gonna love this weapon. Anyway, tip number 2 time. Alright, so we're back with tip number 2 and 3, both of which are in the same area. So basically speaking, you gotta get to the Goblin Cap, which is in this area. You go to it on a regular playthrough anyway, and gotta go inside to the inner whatever it's called. One tip that I can give you is to disguise yourself as like a drow, which you can do so with the Shapeshifter mask if you have the premium edition of the game. You can find it at your camp chest, but disguise yourself as a drow and you no longer have to do any speech checks or any skill checks to get through the area. They just let you go on because you're a drow. You're a big evil baddie. So yeah, we walk in to the Shattered Sanctum. Go away, Shadowheart. Right? The drow check. So like, because you're a drow, it doesn't really make you go through any speech checks, so you can just go in. So yeah, pretty easy. Now for the 2 good buffs. So the first one is with the Goblin Priestess right here, and that is the Mark of the Absolute. If you look here, she basically brands these goblins with the Mark of the Absolute, and basically anybody with common sense would just tell her not to do that, but it's actually good to have it, because basically speaking, you get 2 useful things with the Mark of the Absolute. One is speech checks, in that, not speech checks, speech options, because some points during the game, you can use the Mark of the Absolute to have like useful speech options you can do in order to get through parts of the game that are kind of annoying or just get some advantageous situations. But the other more useful thing is that there's a bunch of equipment in the game that only work, or they have a certain buff that only activates if you have the Mark of the Absolute. So if you want to use these bits of equipment, it's good to get it, and you don't really need to pass any speech checks or whatever to get it. You just basically talk to her and, you know, you go through this and you hold out your hand, let her brand you, and that is basically it. Now, that's the first thing. You can just go through with the dialogue and do whatever you want with a priestess, but we're going to move on to tip number 3, which is with this dude right here who is beating himself. Let's run up here. Yeah, this guy. Now, this guy's just kind of here chilling, beating himself off, and when you talk to him, he offers to, he's just being really creepy, and he's offering to just beat you, right? And if you're smart, right, if you have common sense, you would say no to this guy, but that is actually a mistake. Because basically speaking, if you go through with it, he's going to give you a buff that lasts with you until the end of the game. And it is really useful on the melee type champions that like to go in and take a lot of damage. So your barbarians, your fighters, your like paladins and stuff that go in and do melee damage. These kind of characters would love this buff. And I'm just going to get it real quick and then show you guys after the fact what it is. Okay, so we're back. One thing to make sure that you gotta do is that when you're getting hit by this guy, you gotta pass all 3 checks, okay? And those checks can be, like, there are 3 types of things you can roll, but you gotta roll at least one of them. If you choose keeping quiet as a monk or leaving, then you will not get the buff. So you have to make sure to pass the 3 checks, and the one that has worked for me every time is intimidation, right? So, now that I'm done with it, he hits us 3 times. You go talk to him, right? And he's happy with you. Pick these 2 options, either one you like, but don't pick 3 or 4. So thank you, I enjoyed myself. Wink. And then we get the buff, Loviatar's Love. Now this thing, whenever you're low HP, it gives you 2+ bonus attack rolls, so you're more likely to hit. And it gives you wisdom saving throws for 3 turns. So it can kind of be that extra buff that you need when you're low HP to really put fights and, you know, close them out. The next tip is to do with Volo, the whole, I don't know, rider or whatever. But basically speaking, you meet Volo in the outside of the goblin camp and they bring him in here. And you should essentially try to save him because you get a pretty nice bonus sort of buff from him that lasts with you until the end of the game if you let him do his thing on you at the camp. So first off, you gotta talk to this goblin here, right? Free the guy. Blah, 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 blah. I like one of my own. Okay, where's intimidation? Because, you know, they're goblins. You gotta bully the goblins, right? Blah, 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 blah. Now run out of here. Okay. So we saved the Volo guy. Get to safety. Go to my camp. And then he will get to the camp once we're there. And I'll go to the camp as well so we can get this tip over with. Okay, so once you rescue Volo and he gets to your camp, you have to talk to him once and tell him about the tadpole infection in your brain. And then you have to do a long rest before you can get the buff. And to get it, you basically gotta talk to him, and he's gonna offer to do surgery on you to get the thing out. And honestly speaking, when he pulls his needle out, like the clear common thing to do is to just tell him to just stop, you know? But we just let him go through with it, right? He messes your eye up, right? Some obstacle in the way. And then he produces an ice pick, which like if he wasn't messing you up before, he definitely is right now. But to get the buff, you gotta let him go through with it, okay? So let him go through with it. Keep going, my G. Ack, ack. And he takes your eye off. Now, it's not a good thing to have your eye out, but he does give you a replacement eye. Volo's Ersatz eye. That's the name of the item, I think, or whatever it is. And he slots it into your eyeball, and cosmetically there's not much different in that you can kind of see that one of your eyes is now silver, right? So I guess if you like that, it's even cooler looking on you. But the actual buff is insanely useful in that it's see invisibility. Basically speaking, whenever there's an invisible creature within 9 meters of you, and 9 meters is like this much, basically, right? Which is a pretty high range. They can actually see them and attack them, which is super useful, especially in Act 2 and Act 3, because there are some enemies that just love going invisible constantly at those areas, so you kind of need the invisibility seeing eye to, not to save yourself, in that there's no fight that's like, you know, unwinnable because you can't see the enemy. But there are fights where something that should take 2 turns is going to take like 10 turns with you just wasting time on this enemy that just won't be visible enough for you to kill. So yeah, it's a very useful buff, and I think you should have it on, again, your melee character to go in, because they can go in close enough to see the enemy, and then your ranged guys can just follow up, right? So yeah, that is pretty much it for this tip. Let's go on to the next one. Alright, so this next tip isn't really the most useful one, but it's something that you gotta do, which is secure the Owlbear Cub. Now, if you've been around the media of the game in terms of YouTube videos or like the subreddit or something, you will have seen pictures of this adorable little owl-looking thing called the Owlbear called the Owlbear Cub. And to get this thing, you gotta go down here near the Blighted Village, right? It's like under this bridge, or you can walk through this area, right? I'm gonna get here. And this is the entrance of the cave. So we get into the cave, right? And within the cave, you will find a big owlbear and a baby owlbear. And to get the baby owlbear, you essentially have to kill the mother, right? As horrifying as it sounds, you gotta kill the mom, and then the baby will de-aggro. Afterwards, well, let's just do it, and then we'll look into the afterwards. I'll walk it through with you together. So the mother will be around here. Let's find her. There she is. And where's the cub? There he is. Look at this thing. Anyway, we gotta fight the mother, so I'll be back when we kill it. Alright, so we're almost done with the owlbear. We're just gonna put it down. One last finishing attack. Shadowheart, do the honors. You're useless. Main man, do the honors. There we go. Okay, so when you kill the owlbear mom, the cub just de-aggros from you immediately, okay? So then, you can go talk to it, right? One of our guys has, talk with animals. But yeah, you don't kill it, let the creature live. And then the owlbear cub will eat his mother, or her mother. I'm not an owlbear veterinarian, but yeah, it'll eat the mother. And then from this point, you gotta leave, because you'll find the owlbear cub in the goblin camp. So let's just get over there and then see what I'm talking about. Hey guys, it's me, Rhoku, editing here. Real quick, I forgot to record this part, but basically speaking, once you leave the owlbear to eat its mother, you have to go back to camp, rest one night, and then you go into the goblin camp to find the owlbear in the chicken chasing area. Once you're there, you have to talk to the owlbear itself and pass an animal handling check, after which you'll get to let it sniff your hand and then follow you to the camp. But I have that part recorded, so yeah, let's get into it. Alright, so last time I rolled a 1, thank the gods. Let's hope we have better luck this time. Nice, a natural 19, perfect. Okay, so you do the animal handling check on the owlbear specifically. You give this offering your hand thing so that he can sniff your hand and then follow you into the camp. And now you gotta talk to Krola again. Right? Just talk to her, blah, 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 blah. And you gotta get to this dialogue option. I'm leaving, and the owlbear's coming with me. And after that, you have to do an intimidation check. Which, I mean, we're a orc, so we should have this one in the bag. What? Just barely? Okay. God. Okay, cool. Okay, so once we pass the check, the owlbear just disappears from the area, or he just kind of leaves, right? He just runs away into the wilderness. And that is the last you'll see from him from now. Now, I won't really go through every single night that comes after this, but basically speaking, the owlbear will visit you every single time you take a long rest. Like, you'll get a special cutscene every single long rest. And you'll get, basically, you can get multiple things, right? In one of the cutscenes, it comes up to you looking for food, so you have to feed it. In one of the cutscenes, it comes up to you with like a broken leg, and you gotta heal that. And then I think it just joins your camp, or there's one more, but that's the hard part done, right? You just gotta act like normal in those little cutscenes, and it will join your camp officially and be there for you to pet. Now, as I mentioned in the very beginning of this tip, the owlbear isn't really the most useful thing. It doesn't really do much, unlike the dog, but it will serve one specific purpose at some point in the game that I will not spoil. So the owlbear does end up being useful, just, you know, it's more of a cosmetic cute thing to have around. Anyway, next tip. Okay, so this next tip is a bit of a 2-for-1, which is basically, number 1, some content you might miss,
And number 2, how to learn an instrument. Now, basically speaking, when you firstly get into the Emerald Grove, through fighting, well, not fighting, talking to these guys, you can very easily miss a path that is to the left of here that I honestly missed in my first playthrough, and all the people I've talked to missed it as well, because it's so, like, when you're coming in from this perspective, it's very easy to miss, especially when you're not looking there. But it's an important place to go to, because you get 2 things unlocked by just going here. Number 1 is the more straightforward one, which is more content. Basically speaking, down there is a child, a Tiefling kid that is being, like, hypnotized by the Harpies. And you have to essentially go and save him, and once you do, you get access to an entire quest line you can do that, I mean, quests are good, right? We're playing an RPG for a reason, so that's more content for you. And number 2 is how to learn how to play an instrument. Now, the thing about this game is that the vast majority of the time, you're not going to start out with a bard character, which means that your character can't play any instrument, including a lute. So if we try, poor performance, this boy does not know how to play a lute. And here we're going to remedy that. So to do that, to learn how to play a lute, you got to talk to this tiefling called Alfira. She's struggling writing a song, and you got to basically agree to help her out. And specifically, right, here's the important part. Blah, 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 I do not care. Instead of this, you got to ask her to give you the lute and then pass 2 performance checks. So she gives it to you, and now we got to play along with her, right? So now let's save for the checks. And pass these, you know, performance rules. I'll be here for a while. So yeah, we passed the first check. Let's get into the next one. We gotta pass the second one, and now we get guidance, which should be easier. Let's save, just in case things go wrong. Yes! Okay, okay. Whew.
Sorry.
She cries. Don't cry, baby girl. I'm sure her teacher will be proud. And now, we've learned how to play, so let's go. There's a bunch of things you can do with the loot. You can earn money with it. And although it's not the most useful thing in the game, there are some circumstances during which it's like, the game basically just tells you, oh man, wouldn't it be so great if someone could play an instrument here? So for these kinds of situations, it's always good to be able to play these instruments and stuff, and, you know, it's just, you don't have to waste a feat on learning how to play an instrument, basically. You can just get it for free on, like, a warrior or something that doesn't get it by default. Anyway, next tip. Alright, so this next tip is an entire questline that you can very easily miss, and that is to investigate Kagha. So basically speaking, when you get into this area and you save the little girl, or I don't know, doom her if you're into that, you gotta get into this office type area, servants' quarters, and there is a bookshelf that you gotta get behind. Now, if you watched my previous video, you know that if you hold Alt, you can see the things you can interact with, and the thing we gotta get to is Kagha's chest, which can be easily accessed through jumping up here. We get back here, right? It is locked, so let's just get AST, my boy AST, to get in here and unlock it. Hey, yo. Get that. Alright, he's got every single, like, modifier in the book. Good. Okay, so he unlocks it. No needed. The artificial intelligence I have it playing with me. So we unlock the chest, and we gotta read these things. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. And then this basically marks an area on the map, which is a meeting spot. And then the quest begins. So there's something more I need to share with you from this point, and I don't want to spoil anything because it has its own choices and stuff, and it's like an actual quest line that can be kind of impactful. So you just get the quest right here. Investigate Kagha, yeah, and just go through with it and see where it leads. And yeah, that's some content for you to explore. Next tip. So this next tip is to do with Auntie Ethel, and this one is going to give you a permanent buff for the rest of the game. Basically speaking, if you fight Auntie Ethel and get her to 10 HP, she will offer you her hair in exchange for letting her live, and her hair can give you a buff to an ability that again lasts permanently. So I'm going to get into combat with her, then I'm going to get her to low HP, and then record again to see what to do at that point to get the buff. So just for now, do the thing normally, go through with it normally like how you would if you're just a normal player, and yeah, I'll see you later. I mean, I'll see you in a few seconds. Alright, so we've gotten into the Auntie Ethel fight, and one thing's crucial, you don't want to actually like blitz her and one-shot her in the main area of her house. You got to get down here to this underground area and then fight her again. And now that she's like super low HP, once it gets to her turn, she will make the offer. So let's just all skip our turns here. Yeah, man, don't save me. Let the clones cook.
Wait.
There we go.
Wait just a tick.
Killing me. But it's unpleasant. So how about we be civilized about this?
Okay, go on.
I knew I liked you, dearie. Let me leave. You want to be stronger? Tougher?
Just
It's your choice, sweetness.
Okay, so the general idea is she gives you a buff in exchange for letting her leave with the girl. Now, you can also pass an intimidation check to make her give you the girl and the power. You can also do it with deception, but if you don't care about Mayrina, you can just take the power. But let's try to do the intimidation check here, which is a 20, so I'll be back when we get this done right. Alright, so mind you, you can just let the hag have the girl, but we're moving a good at 2 shoes here, so I want the power and the girl to be free. So yeah, we rolled a 20. She gives us her hair, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. Now, basically speaking, it works as like any sort of reward, right? You got to pick one of the stats they want to buff to. So it can be wisdom, strength, constitution, whatever. Let's just go for strength for now. Accept, right? And now we get the item. I think it's in my inventory. There we go. Auntie Ethel's hair. And then when you consume it, right? Look at the strength. We get +1 to our strength. So yeah, that's pretty good. That's just how it's done. And that's it for this tip. Let's go on to the next one. Alright, so we're back here in the Underdark. I know the Underdark doesn't feel like Act 1, but it's technically part of it, so I'm going to cover a big amount of content that you can actually experience here that's kind of out of the way. So basically speaking, you have to get to this area called the Grim Forge, and you will during like a regular playthrough, and you'll have to face the Duergars, I think they're called, the evil dwarves. And essentially speaking, there is an area here that you can get to, which has a ton of content, equipment, and even one more fun thing that I will not talk about because it's kind of spoilery, and there's just things to experience there, right? So anyway, you come up here to this area, right? There was the stonemason. Everyone's dead, obviously, right? But yeah, anyway, there's a stonemason here. You come up here. And basically speaking, when you get to this area, you'll see a few Duergars and 2 of these cow things that they're getting to smash this rubble. And you basically have to kill them here, okay? Because they want this Adamantine ore that's on the other side of this. And you got to kill them. If you do it quickly enough, it won't really aggro the other Duergars on you. So just like, you know, it's no problem to just go all out combat and just kill everyone. And when they fight you, the cows will also aggro on you, but you have to kill the one on the right. And then once you kill it, the second you do so, the one on the left will just go neutral, right? Now, to get through the boulders, you can either use the smoke powder bombs that you use like on the other part of this map, or you can just talk to the cow and with an animal handling speech check, you can just convince it to destroy the rubble, and it will do so. Now, once you enter the area, there will be an adamantine like ore here, so you got to pick that up. And then once you do so, you get up here into this area. So you just walk up here and you'll see these traps. Now this whole thing is like really difficult to get through, honestly. But to get to the part that I'm talking about, you don't have to actually do that. So to disable the traps, you have to get all the way back here, but you don't need that. You got to get down here to be able to access the secret content area. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, it's called the Adamantine Forge. So we get in here. By the way, to do this, you basically need someone with really good jump, okay? Really good jump and a ranged weapon. You don't really need, like, teleports or anything to get to the other side of the area. You just need one guy with a good jump. And if you don't have that guy, you can just use Karlach. And you can have them walk alone, because basically speaking, there is a teleport waypoint on the other side of this they can use to bring everyone along. So, you get these 2 levers, and you can control this platform with these 2 levers. So let's just bring it over. Oh, that's the wrong one. Get over here, get over here. Okay. Nice. Okay, so now to get to the part of to get to the Adamantine, first you just gotta go through here, but you can also use your bow to shoot the lever to bring you to the other side of this whole platform. So if you want to go explore that area, you can do that. There's more content there, and there's a way for you to get the smoke powder bomb. But for now, we're going to go through here, right? Walk all the way to the end of this little bridge thing. The Druid guys have no idea all this is here, by the way, so it's like you're not going to get into any trouble by like doing this part of the map. So yeah, you get here, and if you look to the left, you see these two levers, and this is just barely within ranged attack range, and you got to use these to control this platform. So, oh, I misclicked. Okay, good. Let's just bring it over. I suppose the way I'm doing it, you don't even really need good jump. But yeah, I think I'm just stupid. My OBS seems to have crashed in on itself at this point, but thankfully there's not really much to talk about. Essentially speaking, you guys just use the bridge and use your ranged attacks from the bridge to just control it and then get yourself to the other side. And then on the other side, there will be a waypoint you can use to bring the rest of your party in. And you gotta be careful because if you go in further, there is a fight that your character can get into alone. So get the waypoint, get into the fight, and from that point on, just explore the place. I don't want to talk too much about what's in the actual area because again, it's like content. There's like a lot to do in this specific area and some good loot to get. So yeah, that part is for you to do. Okay, so this last tip is the most exploity one, but basically it allows you to get the arguably second best sword in the game, second best two-handed greatsword in the entire game that you can get right here in Act 1, and you get it by getting to this area on the map. So you get up here and you'll walk here. You'll probably clear this area out and deal with some stuff here, but once you get to this area, you'll see a dragon fly above you and you'll meet a bunch of the Githyanki. And among these Githyanki is this guy called Volo, and in his hand is a sword that we want. It's called Silver Sword or the Astral Plane, and it is amazing. If you're a Githyanki character, it's basically the best weapon in the game, but even if you're not a Githyanki character, it's so powerful that it's basically worth equipping above anything else in the game until like Act 3, which is when you'll get an amazing sword, but because this is an Act 1 video, we're not going to get into it. So, in order to get this sword, you're going to have to save, and be prepared to save scum a lot, because you're going to need Shadowheart to cast a specific spell called Command Drop. And it only has a 12% chance of working correctly. So you got to save, and then keep reloading the save over and over again until he drops the sword. Now the thing about this situation is that once you command him to drop the sword, he and the dragon will disappear immediately. Because I think lore-wise, he's like trusting his little mini Giths right here to just do the fighting for him. So he just drops the sword and he just like gets out of there to let them do the fighting. But this means that once he's dropped the sword, he and the dragon will no longer be like your fight. So you basically have to fight these three and beat them. Now, mind you, they are relatively powerful, these four. They're relatively powerful. And if you're on some of the higher difficulties, you might not get, like, you're not going to be able to do this fight. And at that point, you might have to do some sort of, like, exploitate things, like send in a character to pick it up and, like, have everybody back here. That character dies. And then you go back into camp, you revive that character, and then you have access to their inventory, which will have the sword. So that is one exploit that you can do, but I think it's much more fun to just fight them and kill them. And it's way more doable on the easiest difficulty, which is what we're on right now. So yeah, the goal is to just do command drop until it works. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Saved. I'm just going to keep doing it until it works, and I'll see you guys when it does. Okay, command drop. There we go. Okay, weapon dropped. And now, as you guys can see, combat did start, but the weapon is dropped. So the name of the game is to kill these guys and get to the weapons. So we're going to fight them, and then we'll be right back with you. Alright, so my OBS didn't record the part where we actually got the sword, where we fought them. So that sucks, but here is the wiki page of the Silver Sword of the Astral Plane. This is what you're getting by fighting that guy, and this is what you actually get at the very end. So, as I mentioned, it's basically like an exploit that you can get this early, but you can basically use this sword on your character for like the vast majority of the game until the very end in Act 3.
which is a video I might make later on. If this video gets 30 likes, I'll make the same video for Act 2. So yeah, this sword is great on Lae'zel, on Barbarians, on Fighters, anywhere that goes in melee. But that's pretty much it then. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.